Welcome to Lotus Tale Studios, where every story touches the heart. Please take a moment to subscribe to my channel, and if you enjoy the story, don't forget to like and drop a comment. On the day the eldest princess was to be married, her bridal procession happened to cross paths with that of the top scholar, who was also on his way to fetch his bride. In the ensuing chaos that followed, 2 sedan chairs got swapped. Mine and the one meant for the scholar's bride. By the time anyone noticed the terrible mistake, both couples had already entered their bridal chambers and the ceremonies were complete. The emperor, upon hearing of this unprecedented scandal, issued a decree that shocked the entire capital. Just go with the mistake. If anyone was unhappy about the situation, tough luck. Deal with it. And I, unluckily enough, was that merchant's daughter caught in the middle of this royal mess. When the bridal veil was finally lifted from my face, both the groom and I were completely stunned into silence. The man standing in front of me wore a bright red wedding robe that seemed to glow in the candlelight. His features were absolutely exquisite, his lips naturally red and his teeth brilliantly white, so impossibly handsome he looked almost otherworldly, like an immortal who had descended from the heavens. For a long moment, I was nearly blinded by his overwhelming beauty. This was honestly the first time I had ever seen someone more handsome than Lin Wei, who I had always thought was quite good-looking. If it weren't for the completely wrong timing and absolutely inappropriate setting, I genuinely might have invited him to sit down for a proper cup of tea and conversation. The very next second, however, this celestial-looking young man suddenly put both his hands firmly on his hips and burst out laughing with pure, unrestrained joy. Heaven really does favor me above all others. This is absolutely incredible. It's not just luck, it's destiny. Haha. That gleeful, almost maniacal laughter snapped me right back to reality with a harsh jolt. Wait just a second. Where exactly was my newly minted top scholar groom? The man I was actually supposed to marry tonight? I scrambled to my feet in a panic and rushed frantically to the door, only to find it securely locked from the outside. Someone had deliberately trapped us in here. Don't even bother trying. This must be that shrew, the princess, doing it on purpose. She planned this whole thing. The princess. I froze completely in place and slowly turned to look at the man more carefully. You're Zhao Ming, heir to the Duke of Zhao, aren't you? Zhao Ming looked slightly surprised as he took a casual step toward me, his eyes lighting up with interest. You actually know who I am? Not bad at all, little lady. You've got real courage, I'll give you that. But I suppose it makes perfect sense. A man as naturally dashing and effortlessly elegant as I am, with such refined features and impeccable style. Who in the entire capital doesn't know my name and reputation? I rolled my eyes so hard they nearly got stuck. Everyone in the entire capital knew perfectly well that apart from me, the only other bride getting married today was His Majesty's most beloved younger sister, the eldest princess. I was supposed to marry the newly titled top scholar Lin Wei, while the princess was betrothed to the notorious Playboy Zhao Ming, heir of the Duke of Zhao. Since I clearly hadn't ended up in the Lin household where I belonged, then obviously this was the Jiao household where the princess was meant to go instead. Now, the Jiao family was quite the infamous spectacle throughout the capital, the subject of endless gossip and whispered scandals. The current Duke of Zhao was notoriously greedy and utterly careless, with concubines scattered all over the place like autumn leaves. Meanwhile, his wife, the legitimate duchess, was widely known for being timid and far too easy to bully and manipulate. The entire household had long been in complete chaos, with no proper order or discipline whatsoever. And Zhao Ming himself, despite his genuinely good looks and natural charm that no one could deny, had developed an absolutely terrible reputation over the years. He was infamous throughout the city for drinking excessively, gambling recklessly, and womanizing shamelessly, with seemingly no ambition whatsoever for anything serious or meaningful in life. When the old Duke of Zhao was still alive and in his prime, he had spent many long years leading troops at the dangerous border, protecting the realm from invaders. During that time, he had entrusted his only legitimate grandson to be raised by the royal family in the comfort and safety of the capital. The late emperor, out of deep appreciation for the old duke's unwavering loyalty and distinguished service to the crown, personally arranged a royal engagement for the duke's beloved grandson as a special honor. After the old duke's heroic death on the battlefield, His son inherited the prestigious title and became the new Duke of Zhao. But having grown up completely pampered in the capital, surrounded by luxury and comfort his entire life, he was utterly useless when it came to actual governance or military matters. His own son, Zhao Ming, was just another spoiled noble who lived purely for pleasure and entertainment, with no thought for duty or responsibility. The eldest princess had long been deeply unhappy with this arranged engagement, making her displeasure known to anyone who would listen. But since it was decreed by the late emperor himself on his deathbed, not even His Majesty the current emperor dared to break it or go against his father's final wishes. Thinking of all this complicated political maneuvering gave me an absolutely pounding headache. There was simply no way today's shocking mix-up had been a mere coincidence or accident. Someone had definitely planned this entire disaster in advance, with careful calculation and deliberate intent. Judging by how genuinely clueless Zhao Ming looked right now, standing there grinning like a fool, he probably hadn't known a single thing about the plot. But what about Lin Wei? Had he known about this scheme all along? I was just a simple merchant's daughter, nothing special or particularly noteworthy. A grand royal wedding should have been completely far removed from someone like me, in an entirely different world. Yet Lin Wei had stubbornly insisted on setting our wedding date for today specifically, the exact same day as the princess's wedding. Even the bridal sedan chair he had prepared for me was outrageously extravagant and elaborate, nearly identical in every detail to the one specially meant for the princess herself. I had been genuinely worried that it might breach serious royal etiquette and cause problems, potentially even angering the emperor. But Lin Wei had reassured me smoothly, telling me that the emperor greatly admired his exceptional talent and scholarly achievements. He claimed His Majesty had personally approved that he marry on the exact same auspicious day as the princess and the duke's heir, calling it a joyful event to be shared with the entire royal family, a special honor bestowed upon us. Looking back on everything now with clear eyes, it was probably all part of his carefully calculated plan from the very beginning. I really raised a thankless dog who bit the hand that fed him. Sure enough, the old saying was absolutely right. Spend money on a man and you'll be cursed for the rest of your life. Frustrated beyond measure, I turned to glance at Zhao Ming, who was still grinning like a complete idiot, apparently thrilled with this turn of events. Hey, what exactly do you plan to do now about this impossible situation? I asked him directly, trying to keep my voice steady. Zhao Ming waved one hand dismissively in the air, as if none of this mattered at all. As long as I'm not marrying that insufferable tigress, I honestly don't care who I end up with. You're actually not bad looking at all, quite pretty in fact. Definitely worthy of someone like me. Besides, we're already at this point now. There's absolutely no use panicking or getting upset about it. He was absolutely right about that much at least. Things had already gone this far, the situation was completely beyond our control. All we could really do was wait patiently for daylight and see what the emperor would decide. Zhao Ming casually strolled over to the short couch positioned by the window, found himself a comfortable spot to lie down, and began leisurely cracking peanuts, completely at ease. Oh, by the way, what's your name? He asked suddenly, as if just remembering this rather important detail. I can't very well go around being married and not even know my own wife's proper name, can I? That would be quite embarrassing. I sighed heavily and gave him a proper, respectful bow as etiquette demanded. My name is Mai Yun. My father is Mai Chen, a royal merchant who serves the Imperial household. The Mai family. Mai Yun of the Mai family. You're the actual owner of Spring Pavilion Restaurant, aren't you? At that revelation, Zhao Ming suddenly sprang up from the couch like he'd been struck by lightning and rushed over excitedly, tugging enthusiastically at the corner of my sleeve with childlike eagerness. The honey-glazed chicken, the crystal dumplings that melt in your mouth, the tender braised pork belly, and especially that incredibly fragrant and spicy hot pot with all those amazing flavors. I've been desperately craving those dishes for ages now. It's been 3 whole months and I still can't manage to get a proper reservation no matter what I do. Silver can't even get me a table, and I've tried bribing everyone. My dear wife, my good wife, can you please pull some strings for me? I'm absolutely begging you. Wife. Seriously, how in the world is this guy adjusting to the role so incredibly fast? I stared at him with wide eyes, completely dumbfounded. Just mere moments ago, He was this cocky, seemingly indifferent young man acting all superior. Now he was looking up at me with those big, hopeful eyes like a sad, abandoned puppy begging for scraps. There was something strangely familiar about his entire demeanor, something that made him unexpectedly hard to refuse despite my better judgment. I yanked my sleeve firmly free from his eager grip and snapped at him. Fine. We'll settle this ridiculous marriage mix-up tomorrow when we see the emperor, and I'll let you in through the back door of the restaurant. Deal? His eyes immediately lit up like festival lanterns. He turned on his heel, practically ran to the bed, and quickly tidied it up with surprising efficiency, fluffing the pillows and smoothing the covers. Then he turned back toward me and made a grand, sweeping inviting gesture with both arms extended. Then, my dear wife, you should definitely rest early tonight. You must be exhausted from all this drama. With that cheerful declaration, he happily headed straight for the short couch and lay down, looking perfectly content with the sleeping arrangement. Watching this entire absurd scene unfold before my eyes, I slowly walked over and sat down carefully at the bed's edge, shaking my head in complete resignation. So incredibly easy to please. Maybe all the terrible rumors about him weren't entirely true after all. Compared to Lin Wei's cold calculation and constant manipulation, Zhao Ming seemed almost childlike in his straightforward nature. Being around him was oddly refreshing and surprisingly comfortable, like a cool breeze on a hot day. The next morning arrived far too quickly. Before I could even properly greet the Duke of Zhao and his wife as custom demanded, Zhao Ming practically dragged me by the hand into the Imperial palace, moving with urgent purpose. Inside the grand Imperial study, the eldest princess and Lin Wei were already waiting when we arrived, standing together in a way that seemed far too familiar and comfortable. When Zhao Ming and I entered the room together, hand in hand, a distinct flicker of guilt flashed noticeably across Lin Wei's eyes for just a brief moment before he carefully composed his expression. Before either of us could say a single word or make our case, the princess suddenly burst into dramatic tears and began to complain loudly to the emperor, her voice trembling with false emotion. Father, this was all entirely my fault. If my careless coachman hadn't swerved so violently to avoid that small child playing in the street, the horse wouldn't have gotten so badly spooked and this whole terrible marriage mix-up wouldn't have happened at all. I'm so sorry. Zhao Ming scoffed loudly from his position at my side, making no effort whatsoever to hide his contempt. Your Highness, please don't sugarcoat your obviously selfish motives like that. What now? Are you seriously going to blame some random innocent kid in the street for your deliberate scheming? Come on, if you genuinely like the guy standing next to you, just admit it openly and honestly. Why make such an elaborate, dramatic scene? You're both clearly desperately in love with each other. What could he or I possibly do to stop you two? The princess whirled around sharply and snapped at him with royal fury. Zhao Ming, how dare you speak to me like that? And yet, I'm still not half as daring as you apparently are, he shot back immediately without missing a beat. Enough. Both of you shut your mouths this instant. The emperor clearly had grown quite used to the constant bickering between Zhao Ming and the princess over the years. After silencing them both with a stern look, he turned his attention to Lin Wei with measured curiosity. Lin Wei, what do you have to say about this extremely unusual matter? Lin Wei stepped forward respectfully and bowed low with perfect court etiquette. Your Majesty, I sincerely believe this was purely an unfortunate accident, nothing more. Now that the swap has already happened and cannot be undone, for the sake of both Princess Lian Ning's reputation and Miss Mai's honor and future prospects, we should simply go along with it and make the best of an awkward situation. I looked up slowly at Lin Wei, my eyes filled with complete unfamiliarity, as if I was seeing a total stranger. 10 long years of knowing him intimately, of supporting him through everything, and I had never once truly seen who he really was underneath the scholarly mask. I never knew he harbored such ruthless ambition in his heart. How utterly foolish I had been, how blind and naive. Fine then, Lin Wei. Today, I'll give you exactly what you want. May you never regret becoming the princess's husband for the rest of your life. What do you think about all this, Miss Mai? Hearing the emperor's voice suddenly addressing me directly, I stepped forward promptly and knelt down as protocol demanded. To marry the heir of the Duke of Zhao is truly a great blessing for a common girl like me, Your Majesty. No matter how prestigious the title of royal merchant might sound to ordinary people, to the imperial family or the ancient aristocracy, I was still just a lowly tradeswoman, barely above a commoner. So whether I personally agreed with this arrangement or not didn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Besides, for me as a practical businesswoman, romantic love had never been the most important thing in life. He was just a man, after all. I, Ma Yun, could certainly afford to lose him. Right then and there, His Majesty officially issued a formal decree, publicly naming me the Lady of Lotus County and officially granting me marriage into the Duke of Zhao's prestigious household as Zhao Ming's legitimate wife. Whether the others present were happy about this decision or not, I honestly didn't know or particularly care. But Zhao Ming sure was happy. So incredibly happy that he didn't sleep properly for 3 whole nights in a row, grinning like a fool the entire time. Maybe it was simply because he no longer had to marry someone he absolutely loathed with every fiber of his being. Or maybe, just maybe, it was because he was finally going to eat that limited edition, highly exclusive hot pot from Spring Pavilion restaurant that he'd been dreaming about for months. That same day, after returning to the estate in our wedding carriage, Zhao Ming eagerly took me to formally greet my freshly minted father and mother-in-law as tradition absolutely required. They clearly had been informed well ahead of time about the change in brides. When they saw me standing there instead of the princess, there wasn't even the slightest trace of surprise in their eyes. In fact, I could even detect a distinctly faint hint of genuine joy and relief in their expressions. Standing proudly to the side, Zhao Ming fanned himself with his folding fan and beamed brilliantly at his parents with obvious pride. "Father, mother, this is your new daughter-in-law, Ma Yun. Isn't she absolutely wonderful?" I knelt down respectfully and gave a proper traditional greeting as custom demanded. Daughter-in-law Ma Yun greets father and mother. "May you both live long and healthy lives." My mother-in-law immediately hurried forward to help me up to my feet, her kind face glowing with undisguised excitement and genuine happiness. "Good child," she said very warmly, her voice filled with emotion. Then she carefully slipped off the beautiful jade bracelet from her own wrist and gently handed it to me with both hands. "This bracelet is a precious Zhao family heirloom, passed down through many generations. I'm giving it to you today as a symbol of your place in this family. May you and Ming grow old together in love and perfect harmony, with everything in your lives going smoothly and prosperously." I nodded gratefully and was just about to respectfully offer tea to my new in-laws when a distinctly coquettish voice suddenly rang out loudly from outside the room, interrupting the ceremony. "Lord and Madam are meeting the new bride and no one thought to inform us concubines. We could have prepared a proper gift in advance if we'd been told." As the complaining voice trailed off dramatically, several women of distinctly varied styles and appearances walked confidently into the room in a group. The one who had spoken so boldly stood at the very front, dressed in an expensive purple silk gown that showed off her figure. The rumors had always said that the Duke of Zhao was greedy and lustful with a household absolutely full of concubines. Seeing it now in person with my own eyes, it was indeed quite the shocking spectacle. I turned to glance questioningly at Zhao Ming, but to my genuine surprise, his previously cheerful face darkened suddenly and dramatically, as if he had just remembered something absolutely terrible. He quickly pointed an accusing finger at the Duke. "Don't get the wrong idea, wife. None of them are mine, I swear. They're all my father's women." The Duke's face instantly turned dark with rage. "You disrespectful little brat. What complete nonsense are you spouting in front of your new bride?" When his father stood up angrily to scold him properly, Zhao Ming immediately ducked behind me for protection, muttering under his breath just loud enough to hear. "Well, it's absolutely true though. Marrying that many women at your age. Aren't you even slightly worried your back might completely give out?" "Don't worry at all, wife. I keep myself perfectly clean and healthy, fit as a fiddle. Not like him. Shameless peacock." I couldn't help cursing him silently in my heart with exasperation. Then I discreetly glanced at the Duke again. His complexion actually did look somewhat worn and slightly bruised around the eyes. So the expensive ginseng and deer antler tonic I had been carefully considering recommending was probably spot on for his condition. Oh my goodness. So this is our young lord's new bride everyone's been talking about. Not bad at all, quite the beauty. Just as pretty as Princess Lian Ning herself, maybe even more so. The woman in purple cooed with exaggerated sweetness. Here, take this jade hairpin as a wedding gift. It's yours now, dear. She opened the ornate box in her hands and presented it to me with a flourish. At the sight of that specific box, my mother-in-law's face changed dramatically, her expression shifting to shock and anger. She pointed at the box with a trembling finger and cried out accusingly, "Madame Su, you've gone into my private vault again without permission." Madame Su flicked her embroidered handkerchief with a little scoff, completely unbothered. "Madam, that's really not a fair thing to say at all. The Lord himself put me in charge of the household management. How could it possibly be considered stealing? Besides, I only took one single hairpin. That's absolutely nothing compared to how recklessly you waste money on every beggar and sob story." I frowned deeply at this blatant disrespect. Even with the Duke and his legitimate heir both present in the room, this concubine still dared to speak to the lady of the house like that. So the rumors about this household were completely true. This place really was in utter chaos with no proper order. I shot Zhao Ming a subtle but meaningful look. He raised his eyebrows in understanding, then turned casually to the Duke and said, "Old man, come on already. Just do it." The Duke gave him a stern glare for the disrespectful tone, then turned to me with a much softer, almost apologetic expression. "Now that Ming's wife has officially joined the family, Su, you will hand her the housekeeper's token immediately. From now on, the young lady of the house will take full charge of managing the entire estate. That's final." I quickly waved my hands to refuse this enormous responsibility. I've only just entered the household today and am completely unfamiliar with everything here. It's definitely better if Mother continues overseeing things and helps guide me through everything. I'm sure I'll make mistakes. My mother-in-law twisted her handkerchief nervously in her hands, clearly wanting desperately to speak but holding back out of habit. Madame Su, on the other hand, laughed aloud as if she'd just heard the funniest joke in the world. Zhao Ming leaned over close and whispered directly in my ear, "Just take it, wife. Trust me." My mother, bless her heart, she's really not good at managing household affairs at all. She's too kind for her own good. I was still genuinely confused about why this was happening so quickly, but then the Duke directly pressed the heavy jade token firmly into my palm, closing my fingers around it. "Ming's wife, I've heard extensively of your exceptional business talents and sharp mind. From now on, everything under the Zhao family's name will be yours alone to manage as you see fit. You don't need to report to any of us or ask permission. If anyone in this family dares make things difficult for you or disrespect you, punish them according to house rules without hesitation. If someone outside the household tries to mess with you or harm you, just tell Ming immediately. He'll take care of them for you, I guarantee it." That night, I sat quietly toying with the jade token in my hand, turning it over and over, and then poked Zhao Ming, who was busy happily gnawing on some perfectly roasted chicken beside me. "Are you absolutely sure Mother really has no objection whatsoever to me managing the household? This seems too easy." Zhao Ming laughed out loud, nearly choking on his chicken. "Don't worry at all, wife. The one person happiest about you managing the household is definitely my mother, believe me. She's far too soft-hearted and kind for her own good. If she meets 10 beggars outside on the street, she'd probably give them all her gold without thinking twice. Plus, any of the Zhao family shops under her direct control have been losing money every single month for years now. Don't think my father's many concubines are all thanks to him being charming. Most of them actually came from my mother's overflowing kindness and inability to say no. There are plenty of poor women in the world facing terrible situations. She can't just bring every single one of them home to live with us. Madame Su may be strong-willed and sometimes harsh, but if she hadn't taken charge before and managed things, the Zhao family would have gone completely broke and been absolutely overcrowded long ago. But every proper household still needs a legitimate lady of the house to maintain appearances. Hearing this surprisingly honest explanation, I couldn't help but ask the question I'd been meaning to ask for a long time. What if the one who had married in was still Princess Lian Ning as originally planned? What would you have done then? Zhao Ming's hand froze in mid-air for a long moment. Then he gave a somewhat bitter smile. She didn't want to marry me at all, and I definitely didn't want to marry her either. Our marriage was just a direct order from the emperor that absolutely couldn't be defied by anyone. If she had ended up marrying into this household, I would have made a clear pact with her from the start. We'd stay completely out of each other's way and live separate lives. She could be the arrogant, overbearing princess she's always been, and I'd still live my carefree, pleasant life exactly as before. But who would have thought she'd actually team up with that complete hypocrite Lin Wei to pull such a disgraceful stunt? At that, he looked at me for the very first time with complete seriousness in his eyes, all traces of playfulness gone. But I'm a man, and the real victim in all this mess is you, Miss Mai. I may be a playboy with a bad reputation, but if you genuinely don't want this marriage, I absolutely won't force you to stay. Once this entire situation is properly settled and the gossip dies down, I can give you an official divorce paper and set you completely free to live your life. If you want to stay here, then you'll be my one and only wife for life, no concubines or other women. No matter what you ultimately decide, from now on, the Zhao family will be your strongest backing alongside my family. I personally guarantee that even in front of that tigress Princess Lian Ning, you'll walk tall with your head held high. The young man before me frowned slightly, but his handsome face lacked its usual carefree smirk and playful expression. His gaze was remarkably firm and steady, with a distinct trace of genuine hopefulness shining through. His serious look caught me completely off guard for a moment, making my heart skip unexpectedly. Everyone always said that the Zhao father and son only cared about eating, drinking, and playing around, completely disgracing the old duke's hard-earned reputation and legendary status. But now I knew with absolute certainty that no one was actually more clear-headed than they were about their situation. The Zhao family must never become the sharp thorn in the emperor's side that he desperately wants removed at any cost. I carefully put away the jade token, stood up slowly, and gave Zhao Ming a solemn, respectful bow. If the heir is so straightforward and honest with me, then my Yun will be completely honest with you as well. This unexpected mix-up only means I lost a man who wasn't worth my trust or time and gained so much more in return. Though the Mai family is widely known as royal merchants, no matter how wealthy we actually are, we're still just merchants in the eyes of nobility. The emperor must fully understand Princess Lian Ning's deliberate actions today. Her outburst was just for show because the emperor can't openly cover for her without losing face. For me personally, the prestigious title Lady of Lotus County, the royal family's formal acknowledgement, and the Zhao family's powerful protection are worth far more than that ungrateful villain Lin Wei ever was. Besides, I looked him up and down very carefully, my voice growing noticeably softer. Besides, you're honestly a lot more handsome than that Lin Wei. Much better looking. The moment I said this, Zhao Ming dropped the roasted chicken directly onto the plate with a clatter, his face flushing bright red, but the corners of his mouth lifted in an uncontrollable grin. Of course I am. How can Lin Wei possibly compare to me in any way? I'm charming and elegant and handsome. My wife clearly has great taste in men. Thick-skinned indeed, I added silently in my mind with amusement. As for divorce, I'm not prudish or overly picky about such things. I'm actually quite satisfied with you too, surprisingly. We can try building a genuine relationship first. If we both feel it's working, then we'll be true partners. But if during that time you happen to meet the one you truly love. No ifs, Zhao Ming cut me off immediately, standing up quickly. Everything's completely up to you, wife. Whatever you decide. And from now on, just call me Ming, not heir or lord. Looking at his beaming, impossibly handsome face, I couldn't help but think once again. Rumors really can't be trusted at all. On the day of the post-wedding visit, Zhao Ming was already waiting outside early in the morning, dressed in his finest robes. As soon as I entered the Mai family's main gate, my father rushed over emotionally, completely ignoring Zhao Ming's presence entirely, and almost burst into tears as he hugged me tightly. That complete scoundrel Lin Wei. I knew from the very start he was no good, I told you so. What marriage after passing the Imperial exams? I think he just didn't want to be a son-in-law supported by the Mai family's money. My poor Mai Yun, what will become of you now in that household? I quietly tugged on my father's sleeve to remind him there were other people around watching, but he was completely lost in his own dramatic performance. Father-in-law, please don't worry at all. Mai Yun still has her son-in-law here to protect her. Zhao Ming stepped forward smoothly, pulling my father firmly, then smiled brilliantly and bowed respectfully to him. Because it's you, I'm even more worried than before, my father said abruptly and bluntly. He immediately stopped his emotional display, flicked his sleeve dramatically, and snorted coldly at Zhao Ming. Of all the families in the entire capital, the Zhao household has the absolute worst reputation. Bad leadership breeds chaos throughout. I have only one precious daughter in this world, and she's ended up in this den of wolves, married to a good-for-nothing like you. How could I possibly be at ease? Father, I hurriedly interrupted, trying to smooth things over. Though the Zhao family is no longer as glorious as it once was, it's still a noble household with imperial connections. And no matter how much of a playboy Zhao Ming is, he's still the emperor's favored heir, not someone from our merchant family to recklessly judge so harshly. But Zhao Ming seemed completely unfazed by the harsh criticism. He smacked his own head with his folding fan in mock frustration. So that's the terrible image I have outside, huh? All just rumors and hearsay. Then he spun around twice with his arms wide open dramatically. Father-in-law, those are just malicious lies. Take a closer look. Does this son-in-law really look as bad as you've heard? Sure, the Zhao household is a bit unique and unusual, but it can definitely change for the better. I may have some flaws, but I'm obedient to my wife. A few days ago, my father handed over the steward's token directly to Yoon. Whatever she says goes in the Zhao family now. From now on, whatever she says, I do. I won't say no to anything. If anything goes wrong, this son-in-law will take full responsibility. If that's not enough reassurance, there's my father, my mother, and my father's many concubines to back us up. We absolutely won't let her suffer like that damned Lin Wei made her suffer. What on earth is this guy talking about? Seeing my father's expression soften more and more, I couldn't help but turn my face away to hide my smile. Finally, I realized who Zhao Ming's strangely familiar vibe reminded me of. My own father and his dramatic ways. Before long, Zhao Ming had my father almost calling him brother and best friend. Before leaving, my father seriously held Zhao Ming's hand and said with emotion, "Ming, I only have this one precious daughter in the world. From now on, she's completely in your hands. You better not be like that ungrateful Lin Wei who didn't even say a word before doing such a terrible thing to her. If one day you don't want to treat her well anymore, tell me yourself first. I will bring her back home immediately." Zhao Ming frowned slightly, then put his arm around my father's shoulder companionably. "Father-in-law, don't worry at all. Ming is human. He'll act like one." My father was momentarily stunned by this odd statement, then burst out laughing loudly. "Ha ha. Right, right. Only animals don't act like humans." On the way back to the estate, I lifted the curtain of the carriage and told the driver to change course. Take us to Spring Pavilion restaurant instead. When I turned back, I caught Zhao Ming's eyes sparkling with excitement. "Wife wants to go to Spring Pavilion?" I picked up the thick ledger beside me and nodded. "Today's the day to settle accounts. Ming, will you accompany me? That won't delay your schedule, will it?" Zhao Ming muttered, dissatisfied. "I told you, call me Ming, not heir. And no matter how big the world is, no one is bigger than my wife. If my wife goes out, this husband will follow, especially if it's to Spring Pavilion." Inside Spring Pavilion, I asked the manager to lead Zhao Ming to the best private room I had prepared, then went up to the study on the second floor. As soon as I opened the door, I saw a familiar figure standing there. What kind of wind blew the prince consort here? I scowled deeply. This little shop is too small to hold such an honorable figure as the prince consort. Since you've made your choice, please don't come here again. I raised my hand to call someone to chase Lin Wei out. He hurried forward to stop me. "My Yoon, please let me explain." I crossed my arms and sneered, nodding. "Go ahead, speak. I'm listening." Lin Wei hesitated for a moment, then spoke with sorrowful eyes. "My Yoon, I studied hard for years to make a name for myself and marry you honorably. But once I entered court, I realized talent and ambition mean nothing before power. Princess Lian Ning is the emperor's most beloved daughter. She always gets what she wants. If I don't comply, not just me, but your entire family would suffer too. I don't want you or my family to suffer because of me. Now the emperor has allowed me into the Ministry of Revenue. Trust me, give me some time, and I will fix everything. I will bring you home with honor. I scoffed and spread my hands at him. Thanks to you all, I'm already married to Zhao Ming. Besides, Lin Wei, you know I would never become a concubine. Hearing this, Lin Wei sneered. The Duke of Zhao is greedy and lustful, and Zhao Ming is just a playboy. The emperor already fears the Zhao family's army. When the time comes, I'll find a reason to accuse the Zhao family and petition the emperor for your divorce. As for becoming a concubine, no way. I'll make some achievements so the emperor will accept you as a primary wife. I didn't want to hear more and was about to order someone to throw him out when Zhao Ming suddenly walked in. Who gave you such a big face? No, more like a dog sticking its nose where it doesn't belong. Shameless. I was wondering why that arrogant, hot-tempered Princess Lian Ning would do such a bullying thing. Turns out it's you, shameless brat, stirring it up. Wanting to climb for power and wealth is fine, but blaming it all on circumstances? Do you think this is some market stall where you can just pick whatever you want? You're not even human, but pretend to be. What did Lian Ning do? Put a knife to your neck and force you to marry her? If you've already decided to marry the princess, why drag my wife into this just to cover your shamelessness? That's beyond disgraceful. Primary wife? What kind of prized catch are you, Lin Wei, for my wife and Lian Ning to fight over? Lian Ning's bad eyesight is one thing, but with me here, do you really think my wife would ever look at you? Go look in a mirror and see what you really are. Lin Wei, a self-proclaimed scholar who had never argued before, was shocked and yelled. Zhao Ming. Before he could finish, Zhao Ming interrupted. What? After spending so much of my wife's money, you still dare to cause trouble here? My wife is generous and won't argue with you, but I'm as petty as they come. Then he looked at me. Wife, lend him some silver and give him an IOU. Our honorable prince consort would never renege on a debt. I raised an eyebrow and pulled out a prepared IOU from my sleeve, handing it to Lin Wei. After all these years of expenses, food, clothing, paper, ink, and your wedding gift, it totals about 5,800 taels. Considering our long acquaintance, I'll cut it to 5,000 silver taels. Prince consort, take a look. Lin Wei took it with trembling hands, eyes showing hurt. My Yun, do we really have to come to this? People can't be judged by appearances. I had noticed before how thick-skinned Lin Wei was. I lost patience and was about to call someone to throw him out. Zhao Ming gave me a calming look, then shook his folding fan as he approached Lin Wei. Prince consort, today you insulted the emperor and the Zhao family, and I caught you red-handed. If you don't want me to report you to the palace soon, take this IOU and get out of Spring Pavilion immediately. Lin Wei collected himself, remained silent for a while, then clenched the IOU and swept his sleeve as he left. Zhao Ming hurried to the door, shouting after him. Prince consort, remember to repay the debt, or I won't mind going directly to your wife for it. Watching Lin Wei's unwilling figure fade away, Zhao Ming smiled proudly at me. So, wife, I'm still useful, right? I chuckled. I've got the special stewed pot and the crystal dumplings ready. Why not go eat? Zhao Ming folded his fan and stepped closer. Wife, you're still busy settling accounts. How could your husband enjoy it alone? Of course I'll wait for you. Good thing I came. That Lin Wei fellow is shameless. Looks like I'll have to stick close to you and never give him a chance. No way. I still have to go find that shrew Lian Ning. If you pick a husband, you have to manage him well. Can't let him go around biting people. I covered his chattering mouth with my hand and said sincerely, Ming, thank you. Thank you for protecting me so wholeheartedly. Seeing his neck and ears redden, I loosened my grip and smiled at him. Let's go eat. After marrying Zhao Ming, I suddenly understood why Lin Wei was so desperate to climb the ranks. The emperor seemed unusually tolerant of the Zhao family. No matter how much trouble the Duke of Zhao and Zhao Ming caused in the capital, any complaints to the emperor were brushed aside. Zhao Ming took acting arrogant to the extreme and always encouraged me to be bolder. Wife, when you go out, you can stand tall all you want. Anyone who dares cross you is crossing the Zhao family. And crossing the Zhao family means crossing the emperor. If you don't know how, tell me. No one knows how to handle difficult people better than me. As the head of the My family, I truly felt the difference. No matter how much silver the My family earned before, we had to rely on others when walking outside. But after I married into the Jiao family and became Zhao Ming's wife, the My family instantly became honored guests among the great noble families. No one in the capital dared sabotage the My family's business anymore. Power really is a useful thing. But I also knew that this unprecedented treatment came only because the Zhao family never crossed the emperor's bottom line. I spent a whole month finally sorting out the Zhao household's accounts thoroughly. Zhao Ming was right. Most of the Zhao family's businesses were losing money now, except for the jewelry shop and the estates carefully managed by Madame Su. This was only possible because the old Duke of Zhao had built a strong foundation and because Zhao Ming and his father were skilled at certain investments, keeping the family of hundreds fed and clothed. However, maybe it was just my imagination, but after I took over the household, I never saw Zhao Ming or his father at the gambling house again. Compared to Lin Wei, Zhao Ming seemed to understand me better. Whether it was Zhao family matters or the My family business, he never interfered easily, always supporting my decisions. In front of others, he was still the playboy who only cared about fun and left all the work to me, the new wife. But I knew no matter how late I stayed checking accounts, he was always there with me, even clearing troubles in advance. During the 10 years with Lin Wei, he never cared what I did, where I went, or whether I was in danger. Only when he needed money did he suddenly show concern. After passing the scholar exam, he subtly criticized me for being too public, saying it was unseemly for a lady. Now it was clear he never loved me. He only wanted the My family's money. That day at Spring Pavilion, I suspected he wouldn't repay the money easily, so I planned to have someone cause trouble for him. Unexpectedly, Zhao Ming took the IOU straight to the princess's mansion. That day, watching him hold the silver note and describe how he made Lin Wei and the princess eat their words, a warm feeling swept through me. Ming, thank you. He blinked and muttered unhappily. I'm not doing this for your thanks. If anything, I should be thanking you. The Zhao family shops under your management are like new again. The manager said everything came back to life, and both my father and mother are overjoyed. And Madame Su was delighted with the shelter and she started. Now she doesn't have to worry about my mother picking up stray people. Even the concubines visit the shelter every day. I couldn't help but stand and gently kiss the corner of his mouth. At that moment, the whole world fell silent. The next second, a strong arm pulled me close, warm and unfamiliar on my lips, yet carrying the scent of Osman thus. That night, Zhao Ming and I truly became husband and wife. Not far from there, the princess's mansion was a completely different scene. Princess Lian Ning had been arrogant since childhood and hated being deceived the most. Lin Wei's actions humiliated her, especially in front of the one person she hated most since childhood. That night, the princess's mansion's porcelain shattered continuously. At the time, Lin Wei did not realize that although the court never explicitly forbade a prince consort from involving himself in politics, all noble families knew that once you married the princess, your political career was doomed for life. So when Zhao Ming told me, I was momentarily stunned. After all that careful scheming, it ended in nothing. Lin Wei loved power, but having chosen that path, he had to bear all the consequences himself. The next time I saw him and Princess Lian Ning was at my mother-in-law's birthday banquet. By then, I was 5 months pregnant. When he saw my belly, he froze for a moment. Zhao Ming helped support me and couldn't help but mock him. Oh, isn't this our honorable prince consort? So, did you get yourself a child as well? Ming. Princess Lian Ning shot a glare and angrily scolded him. Zhao Ming sneered, his eyes serious. Today is my mother's birthday. Lian Ning, I don't want a scene with you here. You'd better take that esteemed prince consort of yours away from my wife's sight. Princess Lian Ning was clearly choked up for a moment but controlled her temper and looked at me seriously. I have something to say to the lady of the house. What good could you possibly have to say to my wife? I grabbed Zhao Ming, who was furious beside me, and shook my head slightly. Ming, you take the prince consort to the front hall to take your seat first. I'll come find you after I finish talking with the princess. Zhao Ming reluctantly nodded, then walked over to Lin Wei. Let's go, esteemed prince consort. Watching them leave, I got up and poured a cup of hot tea for Princess Lian Ning. The princess didn't come to cause trouble, nor to apologize. Perhaps my tone was too certain, because Princess Lian Ning paused, then smiled slightly. Now I understand why Ming can be so obedient and well-behaved in front of you. I never regret what I've done, and of course I'll bear all the consequences myself. I won't blame anyone. I don't want to marry Zhao Ming. That's true. But if I told you the arranged marriage wasn't my idea, would you believe me? I nodded. Lin Wei is scheming, craving power, but also wanting a good reputation. If the arranged marriage is exposed, people will just say the princess is abusing her power. After all, who would suspect a humble scholar who just passed the top exam? But he probably forgot that before absolute power, everything he did was just because the princess wanted it. Princess Lian Ning took a sip of her tea and looked at me. Lady of the house, I sincerely wish you and Ming a long and happy life together. After seeing off Princess Lian Ning and Lin Wei, I looked at Zhao Ming, who was still sulking. Still angry? Zhao Ming shook his head unhappily as he placed some shelled peanuts before me. Just seeing him makes me sick. I stepped forward and linked my arm around his. No appetite. What to do? That special beef hot pot I had prepared is going to waste. He quickly pulled me into his arms and acted spoiled. That won't do. You still have to eat. I knew my wife was the best. I gently pinched his cheek and whispered, don't worry. He won't have a good time from now on. Besides, the happier we are, the worse he'll feel. Zhao Ming smiled arrogantly. Exactly. How could his life compare to mine? Come on, wife. Let's go eat hot pot. When the veil was lifted, I admit I felt more joy than surprise. I had been betrothed to Princess Lian Ning since childhood. But to me, she was an unreasonable shrew, and to her I was a hopeless playboy. We both loathed each other. Yet this marriage was arranged by the late emperor and couldn't be cancelled. I was prepared to live peacefully apart after marriage, but she was so bold as to publicly try to swap brides. However, her taste was terrible. She chose that shameless Lin Wei. So the woman Lin Wei originally wanted to marry ended up in my Jiao family. I had heard about her. The My family's business spanned the whole realm, and she was now the head of the My family. She also owned the largest restaurant in the capital, Spring Pavilion. I'd wanted to try Spring Pavilion for a long time. Their honey-glazed chicken, crystal dumplings, and especially the spicy, flavorful hot pot were unforgettable. But it was always packed, and no matter how much silver I spent, I couldn't skip the line. I even had my servant wait in line for 3 months without success. Now the owner of Spring Pavilion was my wife. God knows I was so happy at that moment I almost wanted to run circles around the city wall. Lian Ning had bad taste, and so did Lin Wei. The lady of the My family was beautiful, kind-hearted, and excellent at managing the household and business. Practically the most perfect woman in the world. How could she compare to that shameless Princess Lian Ning who only knew how to eat, drink, play, and throw tantrums? But Lin Wei, I thank you for your terrible taste. However, after calming down, I decided I needed to ask her what she planned to do. After all, in this ridiculous bride switching scandal, she was the biggest victim. Before the emperor, I deliberately exposed Princess Lian Ning's actions. The emperor was somewhat annoyed but powerless. And then he asked for Lin Wei's opinion. That newly minted top scholar was not only short-sighted but shameless as well, boldly claiming that mistakes should be allowed to stand. I sneaked a glance at my wife. She seemed incredulous. Did she really like him that much? A flash of disappointment crossed my heart. Although I was a bit of a playboy, I was still far better than that hypocrite Lin Wei. When I came back to my senses, I saw her kneel down. To marry the Zhao heir is my great fortune, she said. What did she say? She was willing to marry me. I rubbed my ears, disbelief filling me. It wasn't until the emperor decreed to bestow upon her the title Lady of Lotus County, officially making her my wife, that it all felt real. Zhao Ming, you're one lucky guy, I whispered to myself. That day when we returned home, I took her to meet my parents. The whole Zhao household was delighted, not because Princess Lian Ning had married in, but because of her. My mother immediately gave her the family's heirloom jade bracelet, and my father hurriedly handed her the steward's jade token. Her expression was complicated. Oh no. I worried she might think we were just giving her more work and scare her off. That night, I pretended to be indifferent and asked for her thoughts. I liked her and wanted her to be my true wife, but I was not the kind to force her. If she was unwilling, I would let her go once things calmed down. But she said she was fairly satisfied with me. And after that, I couldn't hear anything else. My mind was full of the thought that she might have feelings for me too. Zhao Ming, you better work hard from now on to make her even happier. Got it? At the return home ceremony, I had already inquired about my father-in-law's likes, wanting to make a good impression. He seemed to have a huge grudge against Lin Wei. Fine by me. I had no small opinion of him either. Before leaving, my father-in-law solemnly told me, if one day I didn't want to protect and love her anymore, I must tell her first. Not like Lin Wei, who did irreparable damage without even a word. My heart ached, and I was a little angry. Indeed, if he hadn't wanted to marry, why did he propose before the wedding and then go along with such a dirty scheme just to please Lian Ning? If the Zhao family really was that ruthless den of wolves, it would have ruined this innocent woman's life. I prepared to teach Princess Lian Ning and Lin Wei a lesson. But before I could act, I witnessed Lin Wei's shamelessness again. On the way back to the Jiao residence, my wife voluntarily took me to Spring Pavilion and thoughtfully brought me the long-awaited rice cakes and hot pot. Good food and fine wine naturally required a beautiful companion. I turned to my wife's study, ready to enjoy the feast together. But then I overheard the most shameless words I'd ever heard in my life. Lin Wei, you really have huge nerve. Do you think I, Zhao Ming, am just decoration? He even dared to suggest making my Yun a secondary wife. How utterly shameless. This scoundrel was somewhat sharp to realize the emperor feared the Zhao family. But what he didn't know was the emperor feared only the Zhao family when my grandfather was alive. My father and I have been ruling the capital for years, relying on more than just my grandfather's military merits. The Zhao family's glory and responsibility never needed to be passed down generation by generation. My grandfather had extraordinary talent and kept the border peaceful for many years. But neither my father nor I possessed such gifts. Why should we force ourselves to be the emperor's thorn? Enjoying worldly glory is enough. I believe my grandfather and the emperor think the same. Now even this little prince consort dares to casually slander the Zhao family. Old grudges and new enmities will be settled all at once. Since he wasted so much of my wife's silver, I'm going to make sure he coughs it all back up. No money? No problem. Lian Ning has money. I marched into the princess's mansion, waving the IOU, and deliberately read aloud the debt and what he said to my wife at Spring Pavilion. Sure enough, Lin Wei dared not utter a word in front of my wife. Seeing this, Lian Ning had no choice but to scowl and have someone bring the silver. That bride swap was a real disaster for her. It's been years since I've seen Lian Ning suffer such a big blow. It made me very pleased. Without hesitation, I took the silver and rushed back to the residence to find my wife. Better tell her quickly. The princess's mansion is going to be lively from now on. If you enjoyed this tale of unexpected love, mistaken identities, and sweet revenge served cold, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to Lotus Tale Studios for more captivating stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our next enchanting tale of romance, drama, and intrigue. What do you think about this story? Should my Yun have forgiven Lin Wei and given him another chance, or did she make absolutely the right choice with Zhao Ming? Was the emperor right to just let the mistake stand, or should he have fixed it? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing from you. Until next time, may your own love story be filled with as much unexpected joy and far fewer scheming scholars. This is Lotus Tale Studios, where every story blooms into something beautiful.